Welcome to this video on seed drying. This video is part of a series on different aspects of organic seed quality, produced in the frame of the European Life Seeding Project. My name is Steven Groot. I'm a seed biologist and I've worked for almost 40 years at the Wageningen University and research on seed biology and technology. At present, I provide training and consultancy on these topics in the frame of the International Seed Academy. I'm also Vice Chair of the Seed Storage Committee from the International Seed Testing Association. The modules 12 and 13 regarding seed quality concern 4 topics. In this video, I will present on why and how to dry seeds. The other videos are on seed vigor, harvesting and storage. Seeds deteriorate faster when kept at a high humidity level. Drying seeds soon after harvest is therefore essential to maintain quality. In a separate video, more information is provided on the effect of moisture during seed storage. Seeds are hygroscopic. They absorb moisture from humid air, and when brought to an environment with a lower relative humidity, they release moisture and dry. When stored long enough at a stable relative humidity, the seeds will equilibrate with that relative humidity. It is important to make your seeds dry and keep them dry. Here an example of the relation between rice seed moisture content and their equilibrium relative humidity. Although not visible in this graph for the very dry conditions, these curves have an S-shaped pattern. Between 15 and 80% relative humidity, the relation is most often rather constant. In the seed trait and for seed quality certification, the seed moisture content is an important trait of a seed lot. This moisture content is the amount of water in a seed relative to its weight. Whereas seed moisture content can be useful for a farmer that wants to buy seed and not too much water, it is less useful criterion for seed storage, because it is influenced by the seed oil content. I will explain. Some seeds, like wheat, contain a limited amount of oil, while other seeds, like from a sunflower, contain much more oil. Here on the left, a seed with 10% oil stored at 60% relative humidity. The moisture content of that seed will be 14%. A seed with 50% oil stored at the same environment of 60% relative humidity will contain only 7.6% water, because the water can only be present in a non-oil part of the seeds. We can add water to the second seed to reach the same moisture content as the first one, 14%. After that, there will be so much water in the non-oil part that the seed becomes in equilibrium with 96% relative humidity. As a consequence, molds will start to grow on those seeds and they will very rapidly deteriorate. It is therefore better to dry seeds till an equilibrium with a desired relative humidity than to a desired seed moisture content. This graph shows that above 70% relative humidity, fungi can develop on the seeds, causing seed deterioration. To prevent fungal growth, these seeds should ideally be dried to below 60% equilibrium relative humidity. To reduce seed aging further, storage between 15 and 30% relative humidity is optimal. In general, there are 3 main drying methods. First, natural drying with wind or sun. Second, forced drying with air, which might be heated. And third, drying with desiccants. Moreover, during the night, the relative humidity will often increase towards near 100%, and the seeds may reabsorb moisture. One should take care with sun drying. With direct sunlight, the seeds can get rather hot. The higher the temperature, the faster the seeds will deteriorate, especially when they are still rather moist. With moist seeds, therefore, avoid temperatures above 35 degrees Celsius. With smaller volumes, the seeds can be dried in the shade, protected from rain and heat induced by the sun. Also here, they will equilibrate to the relative humidity of the environment. And when that is higher during the night, the seeds will reabsorb moisture. Air circulation is an important factor in speeding up the drying process. In this photo, a drying chamber with a fan to circulate the air. Also here, a limitation is that the seeds can't be dried to a lower equilibrium relative humidity than that of the environment, which is high during the rain season and the night. As air temperature rises, the relative humidity declines. Using that principle, equilibrium moisture levels can be reached below that of the ambient relative humidity. This, in combination with moving air circulating around the seeds, makes drying much more efficient, and moisture levels can be reached below that of the ambient relative humidity. Care has to be taken that a too high temperature may damage the seeds, especially when they are still relatively moist. In tropical countries, the air is warm and often very humid, making seed drying more difficult. In this context, drying with desiccants can be a solution for relatively small seed lots. On the left is silica gel with an orange color indicator for its moisture status. Note that the use of silica gel with a blue color indicator, based on toxic cobalt chloride, is prohibited in the European Union. On the right are drying beads, also known as a type of molecular sieves. These beads attract water till saturated. The drying bead technology provides a mobile, fast and cost-effective method for drying seeds, even immediately after harvest, and is successfully used by small-scale seed productions in Southeast Asia. Systems to dry seeds using moisture absorbers require the use of hermetically closed containers. Insertion of, for instance, a laptop fan will accelerate the drying. The drying process can be monitored with the use of a digital hygrometer incorporated in a Bluetooth data logger. Although in this example seeds are packed in paper bags, the drying will be faster when placed in open boxes. Here another example. The bin on the right was designed for tomato seed drying in tropical Asia, where high humidity makes seed drying difficult. The column placed in the bin contains drying beads. After tomato seed multipliers harvest and clean the seeds, they put the seeds in the bin to dry within a day. Once a week, the seed company collects the harvest and replaces the drying bin. The official method to determine the equilibrium relative humidity from a seed lot is with a so-called water activity meter, which is also used in the food industry, but such instruments are expensive. Here, a simple, inexpensive method that is most often accurate enough. When seeds are placed in a hermetically sealed container, together with a hygrometer, the air in the box will exchange moisture with the seed sample until equilibration. The subsequent relative humidity of the air can be read from the hygrometer. This method is less precise, but in practice generally sufficient for drying of seeds. It is not so important if the seeds are equilibrated to, for instance, 32 or 30% relative humidity. Here an example to demonstrate the practice. The seed sample on the left is dry, with an equilibrium relative humidity of around 20%. The sample in the box on the right is far too humid, with an equilibrium relative humidity of around 90%. The dried sample will deteriorate fast when no drying to save levels is employed. A last point to mention is the migration of water from the core of the seed to the surface, where it evaporates. This moisture migration takes time and depends on several factors: the initial humidity level in the seed size and the batch volume, air circulation around the seeds, the relative humidity of the air, and the temperature of the air. It is often more energy efficient to dry seed batches in intervals. During an intermittent period, moisture can migrate from the core towards the surface without input of energy for the drying. Make the seeds dry and keep them dry. Why this is so important will be explained in more detail in the next video, 30.2, on aging of seeds during storage. Here to summarize the content from this video. First, seeds deteriorate faster when kept at a high humidity level. Seeds are hygroscopic and rapidly absorb moisture from the air. Because seeds differ in oil content, the equilibrium relative humidity is a better measure for physiological quality than seed moisture content per se. Seeds should be dried to a low level of relative humidity, at least below 60%, but preferably to 30%. Several methods can be used for seed drying, like natural drying using wind or sun, forced drying with heated air, or drying with desiccants. The choice of drying depends on the humidity of the outside air, the value, and the volume of the seed batch. To keep quality, make your seeds dry and keep them dry. Thank you very much for your attention. When you are interested, there are more related live seeding training modules available.